My first question is correct, as we had discussed. So it's very correct for people who are not well familiar with Bengal politics, specifically politics of left or politics of communism. How, because you have been working in almost 25 years as a journalist, okay, being working with Bengal in terms of Bengali politics, in terms of Bengali politicians, Bengali society overall. So, your first observation on this change in the political narrative, the political direction from a very ultra left leaning political uh, like political leaning society to now on the verge of a new Hindu renaissance in terms of Bengali consciousness, where we had seen last year 1 crore Bengalis celebrated Ram Navami, and we are also seeing this time to today's Ram Navami, and we are seeing people, Bengali Hindus, celebrating Ram Navami as their own, which was quite unheard and unthinkable in the left-leaning days of 1970s and 80s. So over to you.
There is a historical background to it. The leftism one observes in Bengal, especially its polity, especially the section of the population that is very vocal, most of them being based in Kolkata. We do not get to hear much about the Bengalis from the rest of Bengal, from the suburbs, from the other towns and cities of the state, from villages, etc. So an outsider tends to believe that this state is largely leftist, which is not true. But to whatever extent there is an element of truth in that observation, there is a historical background to it. Let's not forget that the history of Bengal proceeded not quite in the direction of the rest of India. And there has been a long history of iconoclasm in the state. First of all, at the time of not only the Gupta reign, but also after its fall, when the Pala dynasty began, they were patrons of Buddhism. And Buddhism, as we know in the initial stages, was of the Hinayana variety of that sect of Buddhism, which was against idolatry. So that was the first phase. In fact, the Palas promoted Buddhism to such an extent that when the next dynasty came in, that was the Sena dynasty, they actually struggled quite a lot to revive Hinduism in the state. Nowadays, a lot of Brahmin surnames that we hear from the state, Banerjee, Mukherjee, Chatterjee, Ganguly, these are all people from other parts of the country, like Bandopadhyay, Mukhopadhyay, Chattopadhyay, Gangopadhyay. These were all Upadhyayas who had come from as far a place like Kannauj. And before they could wholly revive Hinduism in the state, Muslims arrived. Now, that was an even more violent sect of anti-idolatrous cult. Followed by that, the British came, who kind of brainwashed us into believing that all our customs and traditions and belief systems were superstitious, backward, regressive, obscurantist, etc. Now, when we got independence finally, initially there was a Congress rule for many years and decades. But then, as in the rest of the country, people started getting disillusioned with the Congress rule, and Bengal was no exception. But before any other state, what Bengal saw as a parallel political development was Naxalism that erupted in 1966. It was very violent. It was suppressed equally violently by Siddhartha Shankar Rai in 1972. Now, Naxalism had an impact on mainstream politics of the state, which is because of the ground of communism that the Naxals had built, they could come into power in 1977. Now, so it is not just the phase between 1977 and 2011 that Bengalis got exposed to or subjected to communism of the Communist Party of India Marxist variety. But before that, I could even include the Brahmo Samaj, which despite being Hindu was anti-idolatry. And therefore, a kind of belief system developed in Bengal, which was against the core of the Hindu belief system, which not only is about the Vedas, it is also as much about the Puranas, which kept being composed between the 3rd century BCE and the 16th century CE. And therefore, the other tract of history that we see in the more recent past, which is of very patriotic nature. For example, the author of Vande Mataram, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, then Ramakrishna Paramahansa, his disciple Swami Vivekananda, up to Rishi Aurobindo. Now, that was another tract of history. However, due to the British rule, that was attempted, that was sought to be suppressed by the rulers. And subsequently, since we had a very long stretch of Congress rule, beginning with Jawaharlal Nehru, who was an avowed communist, but he never, quite made it official, although the kind of influence he was under while getting his higher education in the United Kingdom, they were communists, especially Palme Dutt. And therefore, this patriotic, religious is as important as patriotic, because Hinduism is intrinsic to India. Without Hinduism, India, as we know, ceases to exist. And that was the section of Bengalis that was suppressed. It was constantly harped on the people that being religious was outdated. And therefore, under the Congress rule, under the communist rule, and 15 years since the end of communist rule, I would say the Trinamool Congress is more leftist than the left in many ways. Constantly, it has been harped on the people that being religious or letting your religion spill over to the realm of politics is regressive. It is not smart, it is not cool. And therefore, even people of Bengal who feel very religious are hesitant to express it. So, that being said, in 2014, when the power changed in New Delhi, along with that, I would say that the Narendra Modi reign has acted as a catalyst. I use the word catalyst and not a reactant, because Mr. Modi did not ask us to be what we have become. However, a thing that I have noted since the time of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement is that Hindu consciousness was constantly growing. During the heady days of that movement, when people were debating the authenticity or the legitimacy of the Babri Masjid, people were talking less about the mosque and more about how Hindus have been betrayed in independent India, especially under different leftist and left of center ruling parties. And that thing got accentuated in 2014. A whole breed of Hindus who were very assertive about their identity, they emerged in the past 11, 12 years. And the Ram Navami, which is going on right now, is an occasion when they could lift their assertion to a greater height. And from there, you can see that the earlier hesitation among Bengalis to separate religion from politics, that is going away, because this is not seen in any other part of the country. There are only 2 states in India where people are acutely religious, yet they have been told that it is not stylish to look religious. One is West Bengal, of course, the state that we are discussing, and the other state is Tamil Nadu. In both these states, despite being acutely religious, the people hesitate to express their religious views. And also, religion is not just about mantras and rituals. Religion is as much about community. So this feeling of community that was missing until 12 years ago, that has been revived, and this is this is a pan-Indian observation. We are seeing that in West Bengal as well, and it's good that this is happening finally, because this voice was suppressed and it needed to be heard.